Looking at the behemoth of a problem, number 22, the most missed or most skipped problem on the Chapter 9, Chapter 10 test, we are given information about cosine of A, which is negative 12 over 13, and sine of B, which is negative 15 over 17. We're also given information about which quadrant we're in, so we're in between pi and 3 pi over 2, or 180 and 270. So we know that for both A and B, we are in quadrant 3, which lets us know that our x and y values, or our cosine and sine values, should also be negative when we solve for those. So before you even get started on this problem, we have to know what is cosine of A, sine of A, tangent of A. So we're already given cosine of A, so we need to do work to find sine of A and tangent of A. And the same thing for sine of B. We need to know cosine of B as well as tangent of B. And in doing so, we're going to do so in the same process. We're going to use x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And since we're given cosine of A, we know that cosine is x over r, which lets us know that our x is negative 12 and our r, or radius, is 13. So we're going to substitute those in and solve, and we'll find out that we get positive 5. And because we are in quadrant 3, that makes this value negative 5. And then looking over at sine of B, we're going to be doing the same process with x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Substituting negative 15 for y, 17 for r, solving, we get a positive 8, but also because we are in quadrant 3, that is negative 8. So our cosine of B is negative 8 over 17. Our sine of A is negative 5 over 13. And then we use the same information to find our tangent. So tangent, if you remember, is y over x, so we're just going to use those values. So our values are negative 5 and negative 12, and that simplifies to 5 over 12. And then for tangent of B, we're going to use those same x and y values, and we have negative 15 over negative 8, which also reduces to 15 over 8. Now that we have all of these values, then we can use the sum difference trigonometric identities and solve. So our first one we're looking at is sine of A plus B, which is written out here. And all we're doing is simply replacing sine of A with that value, negative 15 over 13. I'm sorry, negative 5 over 13. We're replacing cosine of B with negative 8 over 17. We're replacing cosine of A with negative 12 over 13, and replacing sine of B with negative 15 over 17. We multiply these values to get 40 over 221 and 180 over 221. We have a common denominator, so we can add those for our answer of 220 over 221. Now, in doing the sine of A minus B, we don't have to redo all of this work again. All we simply have to do is change this addition sign to a subtraction sign. All of the values are going to be the same. So all we have to do is simply go from this last step from addition to subtraction, and I get negative 140 over 221. So that is done for sine of A plus and minus B. Moving on to tangent, we're going to be using those same values that we found up above. And so we have tangent of A, which is 5 over 12, tangent of B, which is 15 over 8, and we're using those values to substitute in for our identity. Now on top we're adding those, so we do need a common denominator, so 12 and 8 both go into 24. So you can see the work here in fuchsia as well as in yellow. So we get 10 over 24 and 45 over 24, and we can add those together to get 55 over 24. And then on the bottom, we multiply these values. We do not need a common denominator, and we get 75 over 96. We do need a common denominator with this 1, which becomes 96 over 96. We subtract those, we get 21 over 96. When we are dividing by a fraction, we must multiply by its reciprocal. And so we do that. We are able to cancel here. So 24 goes into 96 4 times. 4 times 55 is 220. 1 times 21 is 21 for our completion. Now we could do something very similar to what we did before, so we don't have to redo the entire identity. But I just needed to change the values here, or change the signs from a positive to a negative, and then a negative to a positive here. So I just basically took this fraction here, and then I just changed the positive and negative signs. And so in doing that, I'm subtracting here. I get negative 35 over 24. I'm adding on the bottom, so I get 171 over 96. And when I'm dividing by a fraction, I multiply by its reciprocal. And so in doing so, I also can reduce 2496. It goes into it 4 times. 4 times negative 35 is negative 140. 1 times 171 is 171 for our final answer. And then a final part of this marathon of a problem, we're just looking for which quadrant that we're in. So we have to look at our solutions for both of a plus b. So our answer for sine of a plus b was 220 over 221. I don't care what the number is, I just care that it's positive. And where is sine positive? It is positive in quadrant 1 as well as in quadrant 2. I'll do the same thing for tangent of a plus b. Our solution was 220 over 21. I don't care what the value is, I care that it's positive. Where is tangent positive? It is in quadrant 1 and 3, and therefore they're both positive in quadrant 1, and that is our final solution. We're going to go through that same process for a minus b. We're looking here, once again, I only care that it is negative. Where is sine negative? It is negative in quadrant 3 and 4. And tangent, where is it negative? It is negative in quadrant 2 and quadrant 4. And we can see that quadrant 4 is our solution.